So, on my journey to help the new and returning players in Destiny 2, I've come across a lot of conversations about movement. In this video, all I'm going to be doing is going through every single piece of movement tech that I use on all three characters. This is going to be a bit of a longer video, and I'm going to preface this by saying that I do play on controller. I will say that I do not use any macros. Any of the movement techs that I show in this video can be used on mouse and keyboard. And in terms of the controller that I use a basic Xbox controller and I play claw. So the first three pieces of movement tech that I'm going to talk about does not need any weapons and it does not use any extra abilities. It just depends on what glide, what lift, or what jump you have on equipped. For the Warlock, I typically use Burst Glide. I don't think I've ever used either of these aside from when I first got the game and I tried it out. The reason that people like using Burst Glide on Warlock is because it gives you the most forward momentum. So you might hear experienced players talk about skating. The most basic form of skating without using any weapons or extra abilities is simply where you're using your jump ability to move quicker and you're keeping yourself closer to the ground, hence why you use something like Burst Glide or Strafe Lift. So all I am doing is I am sprinting, jumping, and then activating and deactivating my glide in quick succession. So again, this can be done on any subclass on the Warlock. I highly recommend using Burst Glide if you want to get the most momentum. So here I am on Titan. Again, the reason that I personally use Strafe Lift is because it keeps me closer to the ground, but it gives me a lot of forward momentum, and that's all I'm looking for when it comes to the basic skating. And the concept is the same as the Warlock. You sprint, jump, activate, and deactivate your jump ability in quick succession, and that's pretty much the gist of basic skating. Alright, now I'm on my Hunter. Now, Hunters don't have a particular way of skating, mainly because their jump does not hold them in the air for a long period of time. The advantage of a Hunter jump is that you can change direction, but I do want to mention one method of movement which can be used mainly in Crucible. The only thing you need to have equipped is Strafe Jump, which is available on every single one of the subclasses. If you're running around a map and you see any kind of low ceiling, for some reason, if Hunters bump their heads against the ceiling, it gives them a little bit more momentum. Again, I've not really seen anybody use this technique in PvE activities. However, if you really enjoy PvP and you want to get around the map quicker, for some reason bumping your head against ceilings just carries you farther. And again, it really works best if you're using Strafe Jump. Another thing that I wanted to mention before I moved on is that on all three characters I was using a movement exotic to just allow myself to move faster. So I was using Stompies on the Hunter, I was using Transversive Steps on the Warlock, and on the Titan I was using Dune Marchers. These pieces of exotic armor help, however they are not necessary to do these movement techniques. Okay, the next two pieces of movement tech that I'm going to talk about involve using specific aspects on specific subclasses on characters. So first off, we're going to talk about the Dawnblade and Icarus Dash. So if you're using Icarus Dash normally, for instance if I sprint, jump, and Icarus Dash, it's a good movement tool to simply get out of a situation. However, if you pair Icarus Dash with your jump ability, it'll increase the distance and speed at which you dash. So the steps to this is simply sprint, jump, activate your jump ability, and then activate the Icarus Dash. So sprint, jump ability, Icarus Dash. The big thing to remember is simply activate your jump ability before you Icarus Dash. And I'm going to say this often in the video, but movement exotics very much help, as well as having lightweight weapons such as this mountaintop. Okay, for this next piece of movement tech, I am on Titan, and the requirements are to be on Behemoth using cryoclasm. For some odd reason, you need to have a weapon like a shotgun or a rifle type weapon. This weirdly does not work if you're using something like a hand cannon or a sidearm. So what we're doing is we're taking advantage of the cryoclasm slide, and we're going to use that momentum to fly farther with our jumping ability. So the steps to this are simply sprint, slide, and then mid-slide, you are going to sprint again, and then spam your jump ability. And as always, these movement techniques work better if you're using some sort of movement exotic. Alright, so for this last portion of the video, I'm going to be talking about utilizing both your abilities and your weapons to help your movement. The main thing that we are going to be using here is any sword that has this perk called Eager Edge. Basically, it says gain increased sword lunge distance immediately after switching to this weapon. So on the Hunter, there are two things that I like to utilize when using an Eager Edge sword. The first piece of movement tech has to do with simply using your Eager Edge sword to propel you forward, like so. So the thing you have to remember with this is once you switch to your sword, if you have the Eager Edge perk, you will see on the bottom right of the screen, the perk will appear for only a few seconds. That is the amount of time you have to do this movement tech. So the steps are switch to your sword, jump, light attack, and then immediately after doing the light attack, switch back to another weapon. So all in order, it should look like this. After you've gotten the hang of those first couple steps, what you need to do is activate your jump ability immediately after those first couple steps. So in order, switch to your Eager Edge sword, jump, light attack, switch, jump again. If you do it all in quick succession, it looks like this. And this is probably like the 10th time I've said this, but lightweight weapons and movement exotics very much help this. Now the second piece of movement tech on Hunter that I like to use takes a little bit more practice. The timing is a little bit more specific, but it is where you can switch to your Eager Edge sword and do a heavy attack off of a ledge. And as you can see, that gave a lot of speed. One more time. Now for this piece of movement tech, you need some specific things. The reason I'm using Revenant is because of the aspect Shatter Dive. You need to have this equipped. And then as always, you need to have your Eager Edge sword equipped as well. Now to get the hang of this technique, there are a number of steps. The first thing I would do is find a ledge. Once you have that, practice simply switching to your Eager Edge sword and heavy attacking off of the ledge. Now this is where the timing comes in, and you could probably just watch my controller on the top of the screen, but what I'm doing is I am heavy attacking off of the ledge, and as I am doing so, I'm activating my Shatter Dive. And I do want to reiterate, I am not using any macros of any sort. I'm simply switching, heavy attacking off of the ledge, and Shatter Diving. And if you notice, I'm not only Shatter Diving once I come off of the ledge, I am jumping and Shatter Diving. If I just Shatter Dive, I heavy attack and Shatter Dive, that's all that's going to happen. Now, I will tell you guys that this is actually possible on other characters. On the Warlock, if you have a Well super on the Dawnblade, and on a Titan, if you have a Bubble on the Sentinel subclass, you can do this exact same thing. However, the timing is even more specific. Now, I wanted to switch back to the Warlock real quick just to show you that you can even combine multiple techniques. So what I'm going to do real quick is I have Dawnblade equipped, I have the Icarus Dash aspect, I have a sword with the Eager Edge perk, I have a movement exotic on, and I have a lightweight weapon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run around real quick and combine both the sword skating technique and the Icarus Dash technique. Alright, last but not least, I'm going to talk about a couple unique movement techs that are only found on the Titan. The important pieces of these movement tech is, I'm actually using Catapult Lift instead of Strafe Lift, specifically for the strong initial burst of upward momentum. I also have on Lion Rampants, these are mandatory for this movement. And in this case, I do have an Eager Edge sword, however, you don't need Eager Edge specifically for this movement tech. So Titans are unique in the sense that you can actually infinitely fly, using a combination of Lion Rampants and any kind of sword. This is not a particularly fast movement tech, but if you are trying to get across a large gap, this is a tried and true reliable technique. So the steps to doing this are as follows. You are going to switch to your sword. You're going to jump in the air, you're going to activate and then immediately deactivate your jumping ability. After you have activated and deactivated your jumping ability, you are going to light attack with your sword. And then all you have to do after that is simply repeat the activation and deactivation of your jump ability, and the light attack of your sword. So, jump, jump ability, swipe, jump ability, swipe, jump ability, swipe, jump ability. I remember teaching this technique to a friend, and the struggle that this person was having was that they weren't deactivating their jump ability. If you don't deactivate your jumping ability, you are going to run out of lift and you're going to fall. And last but not least, this final piece of movement tech is something that I recently discovered. I've experimented on multiple lifts, and in my opinion, it doesn't matter as much which lift you have on equipped, but what is absolutely mandatory is having the thruster ability. Oh my god, look at this level 2 just... Okay, he's gonna leave. The thruster ability can be found on Striker Titan, as well as Prismatic Titan. So the other thing that is completely mandatory, aside from thruster, is having some kind of micro-missile weapon. Only two that I know of in the game are the exotic grenade launcher Alethanim, as well as the mountaintop grenade launcher, which you can get from Onslaught. So these micro-missile weapons alone actually give you a bit of a push if you just shoot it at your feet. Okay, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be combining the thruster's momentum as well as the micro-missile's momentum. So all I am doing is I'm actually going to turn around, walk backwards, fire my micro-missile, and activate my thruster basically at the same time. Because your thruster regenerates quickly, I see this as a very useful movement tool. Okay, one more time I switched to Strafe Lift, just to see how it feels on this ability. I do believe that the only mandatory things you need for this tech, however, is Thruster, some kind of micro-missile weapon, and I would say Lion Rampants help a lot because it carries you farther. Okay, while I try to make a new friend here, you guys let me know down in the comments if there are other pieces of movement tech that you regularly use. And as always, if you like what you see here, you guys know what to do. I will catch you guys in the next video.